What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We are flying solo today. Greg and I are taking your questions, both live and questions from the lead gen scripts and objections group. We had a guest lined up, a fantastic repeat guest. Tim Stafford was going to join us. He had some flight and travel delay issues, and so he's going to hop on back with us here in 2 or 3 weeks. And we've got some phenomenal guests coming up. So just stay tuned. Like, for example, we've got Cody Bateman from Send Out Cards, the founder, is actually coming on Wednesday in 2 days. So we've got some awesome guests coming up. But for now, Greg and I are flying solo for today. Junior Grandmaster himself is in the co-pilot seat. What is up today?
What up, Sir Pimps a lot? Hey, man, it's a beautiful Monday. I have a polo shirt on, which I had you in mind when I put the shirt on. Like, Matt's going to be so excited that I don't have a T-shirt on with some weird phrase on it. So
that does make me excited. It makes me happy in my heart to show up and you don't have something that has an arrow pointing at a chicken's butt.
Still one of the most all-time sought-after T-shirts when people say, "Oh my God, where did you get that shirt?" But I think I'm a pretty cleanly human being, right? And okay. When I looked up in the intro to our show today, I looked up, I'm like, hey, there's a big ass spider in a big ass web right above my desk. That is disturbing and disgusting all at the same time. I think it's eating something too, which is even more disturbing. So it's sucking the lifeblood out of another creature as we are here podcasting. Yeah, the ironies in life. I know. Dude, so check it out.
Just when you were totally getting back to sleep.
Yeah, going back to sleep. But I did get bit on my belly, dude. Something chomped on me hardcore, and I bet it's that little bastard up there. But dude, okay, so open house yesterday, right? I did not want to do the open house. I'm like, gosh dang it, I don't want to do this open house. Blah blah blah, and so I went there, I did it. Dude, I thought I was going to be sitting on my butt watching Netflix because we've had it open so many times. Quite the opposite. We had like 25 groups come through. And, you know, the Murphy's Law of Real Estate dude, one of the last guys that came through, a guy named Jordan, $800,000 buyer that wants to start looking for something ASAP. And we had a nice young gal come through with her mom that they're looking at the disclosures. They think they might buy the house. So very good use of time.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Very cool.
I'm happy.
Well, let's jump in with a question here. This is from Tiffany Jimenez on the lead gen scripts and objections group. She says, looking for the best objection handling for a listing lead. His market went up and he can walk away with $200K. So his objection is, well, I like the idea that the housing market has increased, but that only means I'll be buying at a high price and I don't want a big mortgage payment. So how would you deal with that?
Don't buy a house, dummy. I mean, the elevators go up, right? You know, if the lower affordability goes up, the higher affordability goes up. So I mean, everything, all tides raise all boats. What I would probably I would have Tiffany ask this question. First off, why do you want to buy a new house right now in this marketplace when you know that all the prices are going up? And then you qualify and quantify what does a big mortgage look like to you? And has he run the numbers with a mortgage broker to look at that $200K he's walking away with tax free because he's a single guy? He can walk away with up to $250,000 tax free without any capital gains coming in. So I mean, that's cash money in his pocket. And I don't care where you are. You put $200,000 down on something, you're gonna minimize that payment substantially. So. Just qualify, and understand where this person is coming from, and then do the pullback or pull away method. Well, Matt, I don't think this is the right time for you to buy. You should probably just stay there. Why don't we just look at the houses down the road and we'll just see. We'll see what happens. Then the real colors will come out. We'll really figure out if this guy really wants to buy or if he just kind of kicking the can down the road to see where it lands. Mm-hmm. So I would handle it with just questions and understanding where he's coming from. What is a big mortgage? Why is he making the move? Those would be the questions I would ask.
Yeah, I would agree, and it depends on the circumstance under which the a listing lead. Obviously we don't have the background on it, and so that would be my question on it is, what was it, somebody that you encountered that you're trying to talk them into moving because they have some equity that you're helping them, see that they could get out of their home, or was this somebody that came into your path because they're actively reaching out and looking to sell their home? Like, that's a big difference, right? So when you start getting to like what their motivation is and stuff like that, yeah, I mean, if it's a situation where you've encountered this person and now you're pointing out and you're kind of drawing them out of the home by pointing out that the market has gone up and they can capitalize, that totally makes sense for them to come back and say, well, yeah, if the market's gone up, that means I have to turn around and buy in the same market. Well, that's 100% true. If you want to live in the same exact area and you cash out in one house, you're going to buy in the same exact market. That is true. Before Trump got in office, like when we were, we've had questions like this come up over the time on the show, and in the past, my answer would have been sell now, like sell immediately, like right now, and then go rent somewhere and wait it out for a year or two because something will, there's probably going to be a correction coming. Now I don't know. Now that's not to say a correction isn't coming, but because we're definitely seeing a softening, but I don't know that we'll see. Some very smart people I've listened to have been of the opinion that there will not be a crash, but they're seeing a softening. And that wouldn't surprise me, right? And a softening is not going to necessarily be worth renting for a short time because you don't know that it's going to be a short time, right? That is the problem with all the government stuff that's going on right now, is it doesn't allow the economy to drop significantly, which means instead of resolving a lot of the problems and getting rid of a lot of the bad investments like all at once, and then like bam, we have like a huge correction, then we have a huge rebound. Now it just kind of seems like we do all this stuff to kind of temper things, so things kind of go down and then they go up. Like, it's like it just kind of stays a little bit constant. Now I wouldn't necessarily tell somebody to go rent for a while because I don't know how long they'd be renting for. Like we've kicked the can, potentially so far down the road, or we've structured things so that to try to keep the economy from falling, that I don't know that that's necessarily good advice anymore. So yeah. Like if that point, it really has to come down to their motivation, because you can't just say like, hey, just go rent for a while. I mean, they probably do really have to go buy in that same market. And so the only caveat to that I would say is after you get done with the questions, there is one thing that I've heard some folks say, and I think the most recent ones I heard kind of phrase it this way was came out of the NAEA, right? Jay Kinder, Michael Reese. And I like a lot of their stuff because they're sharp guys, sharp marketing minds. And they've kind of mentioned this before, like, hey, look, Mr. Seller, in any given transaction, there's usually anywhere from 1% to 3% of the purchase price that's kind of in play that goes to whoever side has the best negotiating agent, the best marketer, and the one that's the best negotiator. Well, I feel like that's me. So not only am I going to get you a higher sale price on the sales end, but then when I represent you on the buyer end, I'm a better negotiator. I have a better list of off-market properties that I can find. You have homes that other agents are not fighting over, so we have to compete less. So I'm, if you were, I would not recommend that you go into this market and sell and turn around and buy with just anyone. But if you sell and buy with the right person that can negotiate both sides, then you can come out ahead. And that's kind of how that's one interesting way, I think, where you can kind of position yourself to say, look, it may not be the greatest time in the market, but it doesn't matter what market you're in as long as you have the right agent next to you that can negotiate both sides, and you'll come out a winner. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay. I mean, it comes down to questions where they are. Was it a need or a want? And then make a decision. I mean, they just might not know what they're talking about either. They might just be getting advice from someone who's wildly unqualified to be giving any advice when it comes to real estate. So, understand
much like
where
ourselves.
that comes from. Yes, except I do this every day. But I see that all the time.
Unqualified.
Well, I'm definitely that way. And you walk the fence. But it is. But when it comes down to handling clients, I mean, you do have to always consider their best wishes and needs and wants, not your needs and wants. And if it does make sense for them, move forward with them and take advantage of the opportunity. But educate and inform them the entire way down the process. That's where I am on this thing. And when it comes to here's the other side of this. A lot of the guys that I've been talking with, they're investors and everything else. They're slowly dumping everything they have. They're going liquid. They see something down the road that they're dumping what they have.
They're cashing out at what they believe is the top end of the market.
Yeah, they're selling. Okay. They're cashing out. They're going cash in hand, and they're going to put their money, just probably squirrel it away for a little while, wait for this pricing to correct, and then jump back in with higher interest rates but lower prices, because you can always refinance yourself out of a higher interest rate, not a higher price.
Okay.
So I think that's where, like, if you're an investor, that's kind of where I'm seeing other people go. They're liquidating. But that comes back into is a want or a need, Mr. Potential Buyer. I mean, do you
Okay.
want this home, or do you absolutely have to get into something? So did your wife just come back and tell you that she is having triplets? Oh shit,
Right.
the 3-bedroom house isn't going to work anymore. Time
Yeah,
to get
exactly.
the 4 or 5-bedroom house, or like a
Yes.
duplex or fourplex. So you can separate those little kids out everywhere. Other little screaming rooms all over the house.
That's
But
right.
yeah,
Arne says, Matt, how do you podcast with a squirrel? That is a good question and a challenge I face 3 times a week.
shut up. And RNA, suck it.
That's right.
God.
All right. Let's talk about augmented reality a little bit because you're playing around with this weekend, you said, right?
I was. We were at a property on Santa Cruz, not in Santa Cruz, but on a street called Santa Cruz in Concord here. And
I was wondering, like, that's a drive for you.
It's
It's like 2 hours south.
oh man, Christina, I just refer everything down to Christina and just call it a day. But so we were in the house. It's an empty house, and I was doing a questionnaire a couple of days ago, and they asked me, like, what's your opinion on augmented reality? And I'm like, what the fuck is augmented reality? So I went on and I took a look at it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is super, 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 super cool. And so I downloaded a couple of apps with augmented reality, and basically what this is, I just was messing around with it, and I went into the IKEA store, and I downloaded their app for augmented realities. And so then what I did is I just turned my camera around, and then I was able to select, like, tables, all this different stuff that I could then put into the house to see how it would fit. Now, I didn't know how effective this is going to be, but, like, no joke, man. Like, one of the last people that came through was this young gal, obviously recently married at some point in the last year or so. With her mom, they were looking for houses for her and her new husband. And they were sitting there, and they're like, well, how would the couch fit into this room? And I'm like, ladies, come here. And I moved them outside, and then I turned my phone around, and I showed them how I'd placed a couch, artwork, a desk, the dining room table, and I got them, they took my phone, and they literally just walked through the house looking at it through my screen as if the furniture was in the house. And that actually really helped her, figure out how to place her furniture in the house and how it could conceptually work with the layout. And after I showed her that, you could visibly see her change. She was like, oh my, it became a reality, a possibility. Like, this is something that actually could happen now. And it was really interesting to watch how that transformed. So, I mean, if you guys want, I have a couple of different things about augmented reality. I've been going deep on it. You think VR, virtual reality, is big? Augmented reality is going to be 10 to 15 times bigger than virtual reality because we're already doing it. Look at Pokemon Go. I mean, that's augmented reality. That's walking around, standing there, and with your screen, you see some sort of something you got to go cash in on. I don't know how to play the game, but I see these little broods of people hanging out in random locations on the Iron Horse Trails, walking over here, and they're just sitting around talking to each other. I'm like, it's Pokemon Go. But that's augmented reality. So in the future, let's say, Matt, you decided that you want to move to New York City for a year to live through the 4 seasons in New York, which is actually something I actually really do want to do. I want to go through 1 year, 4 seasons in New York City, be a New Yorker, and then get the fuck out of Dodge, because that place is going to drive me banana cakes. But if I was going to rent there for a year, right, and imagine, and they're already doing this. What they're doing is that you can take your phone and you can literally peer it into these big buildings, these big high-rises, and you can see what units are available, what the bed and bath count, what the rent is, all this other stuff. So you can walk through and see these things where they would be. You can also, they have, where are they? It's called the Meta headset. And the guy that was doing the TED Talk, he and his company had raised $100 million to really develop this Meta headset. And basically, it is that you take this headset, and I'll put a link in here in the chat for you guys to take a look at this. But you just put this link on it, interacts with reality, but then with virtual reality. And I really see this as something that is going to revolutionize the way real estate is done. Couple of fold. One, you're going to be able to get augmented reality, like instead of like a virtual tour, you'll be able to see an augmented reality of what it could look like for you and your family. So maybe morning, prep for breakfast and kind of the whole family running around, dinners, around the dinner table, birthday parties, Christmas events, Christmas mornings. Show these life activities and events ahead of time. And I think that if you're able to get people excited about seeing their future reality before it even takes place in the property that they're looking at, they'll become bonded to that potential opportunity, and they will, be probably more likely to buy if they're on the fence. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of possibilities here. We are literally just scratching the surface on stuff. And I think it's going to be incredibly interesting. So, guys, I just put the link in here for you. And so hopefully you guys will be able to take a look at that, the Meta headset. That's a little bit about augmented reality that I'm kind of just dipping my toe in right now.
Very cool. And Susan's watching. She's asked if we know anything about iPad Pro 12.9 and their webcam capabilities. I know nothing. So I have no idea what's developing in the world of the iPad. So that's something we'll have to keep our eye on. I haven't heard anything special about that, but I'm a little out of it when it comes to Apple's announcements. I don't really keep track of that stuff. Greg, have you heard anything about any super awesome webcam capabilities on iPads?
I have not heard anything about the iPads. I do know that a lot of the major companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, and a lot of other companies are all jumping onto the augmented reality bandwagon, because even Disney, they're jumping on board with it. So that, like, let's say I know how much you love kids, Matt. So, let's say you took your future daughters, because that's what God's going to bless you with, daughters for retribution. And you get your daughters, a little coloring book at Disneyland, right? Well, now you can take that coloring book back home, but then when you can look at it through like an iPhone or an iPad, now that coloring book will come alive, and you'll be able to interact with the characters in that comic book in the augmented reality side. So it's the software, not the camera, that I think is where a lot of people are going. It's the software of allowing you to become interactive 360 degrees versus a two-dimensional reality that, we've seen a lot of, we are set to using just this two-dimensional phone, right? Well, through augmented, it's going to be a 360 all-encompassing environment, which is really pretty interesting to really kind of learn about.
Well, yes, and it'd be nice if we could figure out how to get video conferencing capabilities that just work. Like we're kind of in this in-between phase where, like things like today happen. Like we're probably not going to be able to use this episode as a podcast because your internet speed is just shit right now. So we're getting all kinds of delays, dropouts. Your voice is super low. It looks, all this stuff. So it's funny because there's so many things we could do with the technology. The problem is it has to work, So video conferencing is a great example, So anyway, there's a great question here that we'll probably wrap up on. This is from Brian Huber. Says, if you hire a stager for a listing, does the seller pay for it directly, or does the agent pay through their commission? So I want to get to where augmented reality fits in with home staging in a second, but just what's the first opinion on who pays if you hire a staging company? Who traditionally pays for that?
We traditionally pay for it, the agents. That's what we do in our area. Yeah. I mean, how bad is my voice modulation right now?
It's terrible. Yes. Right now, your voice sounds like Barry White, but the whole time you've been cutting out. There's a massive delay, so that when I talk, you don't hear me right away. We're not going to be able to use it as a podcast episode. Susan says, Greg sounds like Tony Robbins.
Awesome. I have no response to that.
So, and then
because I can't even do a speed test.
Yeah. So Glenn points out that seller marketing investment is standard in Australia. So I was going to mention that like culturally, Australia is very different, where the listing agent goes in and then the seller, pays for things like that. And there's agents here in the States that do that, depending on their package, or they'll offer a package where their commission is a set amount, and then the sellers have to chip in and pay for things that they want, whether it's a pre-listing inspection or staging or, home improvements, things like that. I had a really great couple of guests on the team building podcast here a few weeks back that talked about a concept they called prehabbing, where they take their investment and flipping experience and they would go into homeowners and basically pitch them the idea of, hey, we feel like if we put 5 or 10 grand into your home, that we can get 20 or 30 grand more out of the selling price. So why don't we partner up on the deal and split the proceeds if we front our own money to essentially rehab your house? Instead of buying it from you and trying to flip it after the fact, we'll just partner up on the sale with you and we'll come in and we'll prehab the house, which is kind of an interesting concept. So that's a way. So essentially they're footing the bill and then splitting the proceeds of the sale, assuming that they get more, anything above a certain amount, then they would split those proceeds. There's a couple ways you can skin that cat. But anyway, point being, there's a couple of interesting ways out there where you can, as the agent, go in and either front your own money or split the investment with the seller in exchange for the expected higher return on the sales side. There's some very cool ideas. So anyway, Glenn says going to change the game over here soon with some early adopters like the Real Estate Uncensored fans. Good, I love it. All right, so Greg, I think you're back. You cut out completely there for a second, so I kept talking. But anyway, let's shall we wrap these things up? What's the best way to reach out and get in touch with you?
What a horrible, idea of a show. Good God. This thing is just, I'm doing my download speeds and it's not even 1. Or upload speeds, it's not even 1. It's 0.90. And we were fine before.
Yeah, you call your ISP and yell at them or something.
Oh, I plan on kicking squarely in the taint later. So go to bookmcdaniel.com, guys. That's where you guys can go book 30 minutes with me, talk about EXP, talk about where you guys want to go, if it's where you guys want to land. So you just go to book McDaniel, and yeah, we'll book 30 minutes with me. If I still sound like Barry White, had sex with Tony Robbins and they had a love baby, then bonus for your ears, I guess. But if not, hopefully I'm coming through a little bit clearer here, but it sounds like I'm not. So.
Yeah, your video is clear, but your audio is still the same. So still Barry White screwed Tony Robbins, and he had a love child. Oh God, I feel like if Barry White and Tony Robbins actually did have a child, it would be a 7-foot tall Lenny Kravitz with Barry White's voice. That's what I'm envisioning. I don't know why. Anyway.
That would be absolutely hilarious. Let's take one more question. Let's do one more question.
I don't have one more question. Let's see.
Oh my God, Paul Franklin. I am not even reading that comment out loud because it's too damn funny. And I know I'll get myself in trouble for reading that out loud.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, so this is from Jeff Krantz. What's your elevator speech for new online buyers you meet at the house so they know that you're working with for them and not the seller? So you're meeting so this is an online buyer lead that you meet at the house to show them the house. What's your elevator speech that they know that you're working for them and not the seller?
Okay, so you meet I don't understand what the problem is. I mean, it's a buyer lead. You're meeting them just at a random house, or is it at like an open house? I mean, I'm not following
it's an open house. Where
this guy's coming from. Okay, so an online lead,
right?
And you're not the listing agent. Well, then you would obviously be the buyer's agent working on their behalf. You can give them the quick little rundown. Hey guys, there's a thing called a fiduciary relationship. And that's when I have a legal obligation to make sure you get the lowest and best price on every home that we go after. The listing agency is going to try to get the highest and best price for the seller. That's why I'm here. I'm going to put my battle armor on every single day, and I'm going to go to battle for you to protect your interest and to protect your money. Is that okay with you? That's pretty much what I would say.
Okay. I like it.
Super simple.
Yeah.
Simple and easy.
Yeah,
to the point.
I don't know exactly what the elevator pitch in terms of like explaining that you work for them. I think that the problem usually is the opposite. They assume everybody's working for them. Usually if you're the listing agent and you show the house, you have to be careful to explain to them that, hey, I don't work for you. I have to treat you ethically and fairly. And honestly, but I'm working for the seller. Like that's usually when that comes up. If they've contacted you and it's a buyer lead and you're meeting them at a house to show them, most people, most consumers assume that you're representing them and representing their interests. So I don't know why that would come up. I think where your elevator speech would come up and where you really want to kind of separate and differentiate yourself if you're meeting an online buyer lead at a house is you want them to know why they should continue working with you and not just call up the next agent or door monkey, to get them in to see the next home that they want to look like. Like that's, to me, that would be and I obviously do not work with buyers, so I'm quoting other people who do, but like that's your opportunity to essentially pitch them and give them your competitive advantage on why they should work with you as an exclusive buyer agent and not just use you as one door monkey out of many. So that, to me, like you're focusing on the wrong thing, right? The elevator speech shouldn't be about how you represent them and not the seller. The elevator speech should be about why they should work with you exclusively as a buyer agent and why that gives them a huge leg up, and not even just why they need a buyer agent in general, but why they need you as the buyer agent, because you don't want to create demand for something that anybody can fill. You want to create demand for you, not create demand for a buyer's agent, because then they might have somebody in the family that go, that's a really awesome idea. I've got a brother who does real estate right here. I should work with him as my buyer's agent. Initiate head smack sequence.
So what I do two things. A while back, I've told the story several times, I believe, and what Terry would do at open houses, and I would be there. I mean, I was shadowing him. I was learning what to do, right? And so I would remember him, talking to these buyers, and he would just, being Terry, doing his thing, doing the Terryisms. He would say, you know what? There's some more properties that are going to be coming on the market. Would you like us to give you a heads up on them? And I'm sitting there. I know for a fact we don't have any new listings coming up at that moment. And of course, I didn't say anything in front of them. And I after they left, I just turned to them. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, we do not have any new listings coming up. What are you doing? He's like, Greg, there are always more properties coming on the market. And he just left it there. And I'm like, oh, you insinuated to the fact that we were bringing them on. We actually never said that you were or we were, but you were able to give them information because you had the value versus anybody else. So I do that, but what I also do is I say, hey, look, Matt, Julie, your three obese little insulin sucking, floor denting troll babies. I have a list. I kind of call it my non-MLS list, the properties that are not on the market that I know about. There are people that want to sell that not everybody else knows about. Would that be something of interest for you if we could maybe get into a couple of those properties and maybe beat the crowds? And people are always like, well, yeah, that'd be fantastic. And so what I'm doing, guys, is I'm just leveraging the make me moves on Zillow. That's all I'm doing. That's my secret MLS. Those are the people that are not on the market, that they might like. And 10 out of 10 times when I use that script, people will give me their information, hands down. It's not even a discussion, because you have something that no one else has offered to them. You have a secret, air quotes, list of magical properties that might stop them from having to go look through, home after home after home after home, weekend after weekend after weekend, and wasting valuable couch time. And that's in Mr. Seller and buyer's mind, of course, because he was always like, I'd rather be doing anything but sitting here with you. Can I just get back to my house? So that would be my script for them, without a doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, shall we throw a nice little bow upon this non-episode?
What a waste. Oh, I don't care. Pick a black bow because I'm depressed. Because we can't use it. This is some good content. We'll have to do it again sometime about augmented reality when we actually can use it for a show. All right, guys. Go to bookmcdaniel.com. Book 30 minutes with me. Let's talk about EXP. This is a short, sweet show today. And then, Matt, any additional information you want to leave off with?
Make sure to subscribe to the show. That way, the episodes that are good and are not jacked up by internet speed issues, you actually get delivered automatically to your handy-dandy mobile device. So go to iTunes, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Stitcher, go to YouTube, whichever audio, video, however you want to receive our content. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to rate and review us. Make sure to thank the guest if you have one that you would like a particular episode in mind. Make sure to shout out the guest when you leave us a rating or review on iTunes. Let them know that they are welcome and appreciated for jumping on. And we'll get Tim Stafford, who we were scheduled to go live with today. He will be getting back on the show. We're going to talk about social media with him. He is a ninja, especially with Twitter. So we'll see what's on his mind and what he's been working on lately. But he is a master when it comes to building and online tribes and engaging with them on social media and kind of understanding where social media fits into the landscape of your entire business. So we're going to have him jump back on with us here in a couple weeks. So make sure you guys stick around. On Wednesday, we've got Cody Bateman, the founder of Sendout Cards. So if you remember, we had Gail Zentek on the show here a while back. She was able to give us the massive hookup. Cody is a stud. He's written a couple of books called Promptings and MLM Blueprint, and he's got another book coming out that we're going to talk about. It actually comes out tomorrow, so we're going to talk about the new book. And so we've got a bunch of stuff to chat with him about. We've got other big guests coming up. We've got a super awesome guest I just booked. Christina Macro is coming on. We've got Justin Zimmerman, who's my my long lost twin brother in real estate, is coming on this Friday.
What?
We're going to talk about systems. So Greg, you can fall asleep for that one.
And I will put myself on mute so you won't hear.
This is going to be like Friday's episode for you is going to be like when we had Robert Ring or Luke Acree, cold calling masters, when we have those guys on the show, and I just kind of tune out and like check my phone. That'll probably be this Friday for you. So guys, if you'd like to see an episode where Greg doesn't feel like talking, make sure to tune in this Friday. All right, guys.
I'm so gonna take a nap. All right, we love you guys.
For us.
Sorry for the tech issues. Sorry falls on a hot day, but you know what? We'll look forward to seeing you guys on another episode sooner than later. Till then, peace out, ninjas. We gone.